When was the last time you felt uneasy? When you ultimately let your emotions take over and decide your actions? Like that moment when someone pissed you off and you start yelling at them, or when someone starts talking down on you and you feel defeated. All you want to do is curl up in a ball. Those emotions that you feel in that very moment are the ones that can end up shaping an outcome in your future, but it is never guaranteed to be a good one. You feel that following your feelings is the right thing to do, which may seem like the right choice. Emotions are compelling, and as humans, most of our decisions are based on emotions. For example, you see someone at the lowest point in their lives, can't even get something to eat. So in your good nature, you give them money so they can at least eat something. Since emotions can influence you, they can also backfire on you. That is where Stoicism comes into place. I previously mentioned Stoicism in the last video of Zorro and his Stoic mindset. I highly recommend you watch it after this video. To begin, I'd like to thank you for tuning into this video. If you find value in content of this kind and would like to see more in the future, I'd appreciate you to share this video and consider subscribing to help support this channel. Your support, which takes just a brief moment, goes a long way in fueling the growth of this channel. Make sure to watch the whole video to really grasp the concept of guts and stoicism. Don't forget to tell us which anime or characters you'd like for us to cover in our next video. Thanks again, and enjoy. What is Stoicism? Well, Stoicism is a way of thinking. A philosophy that teaches us how to find peace and happiness by focusing on what we can control in ourselves and not let those things we cannot control take over us. Many individuals can base their decisions or emotions on external outcomes such as the weather or other people. For instance, there might be times when someone tries to bring you down, could be teasing you or saying hurtful things. Normally, people would allow those emotions to dominate that particular moment. Might get angry and retaliate, feel sad, leave the situation feeling upset. As for a Stoic, he knows the consequences of fighting back or how their reputation can be damaged if they are seen as weak in front of others, which, in case if you didn't know, is the fifth law in the 48 Laws of Power. A Stoic would walk away or take matters with calmness. The main idea is to have self-control. The idea of social media is to hypnotize you. Social media and entertainment by design are created to be as addicting as possible. A simple example would be when you are scrolling. It's so easy to consume content, but each scroll will dig you deeper into a rabbit hole. The longer you scroll, the more you dig. You finally stop and look up, you realize just how deep the hole is. The best thing a Stoic can learn is to be aware of what they are doing. Another way of controlling your emotions is by enduring pain. You can react impulsively when in pain, which can worsen conflicts. Enduring it will help you manage both will and mind.
This brings us to the main character of this video, Guts, the protagonist of the famous manga Berserk. Guts is a strong character known for wielding the Dragon Slayer, an enormous sword requiring impressive skill and strength. His appearance also reflects the hardship he has endured, with scars, wounds covering his body and the famous mark known as a brand of sacrifice, which reminds him of his traumatic past. Which is also the reason why Darkness will try to find him no matter where he's at. He was marked, and so was the rest of the Band of the Hawks. Griffith offered them as a sacrifice to be a Godhead member. Once one is marked, they are destined to be sacrificed to those creatures of darkness and have an agonizing death. But regardless of all the pain, he remains driven. He has an undying determination to survive and seek vengeance against those who have wronged him. He is a character shaped by his life's tragedies, resilience, and perseverance. He is an admired Stoic, and it all started from the day he was born. Guts' tragic life began beneath the hanging corpse of his lynched mother. Left to perish alone, his fate changed when a mercenary group led by a man named Gambino stumbled upon the grim scene. Surprisingly, Gambino's lover Shizu took pity on the crying infant and selflessly cared for him as her own. However, this newfound motherly love was short-lived. Shizu died from a plague, leaving Guts to witness her passing at a young age. Under Gambino's teachings, Guts channeled his energy into honing his swordsmanship from the age of 6. Eventually becoming part of the mercenary band at the age of 9, Gambino assumed a fatherly role in Guts' life, and the young boy looked up to him. But darkness lurked in the shadows of this supposed father-son bond. One fateful night, after Guts' first skirmish, he fell victim to the horrifying actions of a mercenary named Donovan, who sexually assaulted him in his tent later that night. Shockingly, it was later revealed that Gambino had allowed this to happen by selling Guts for that terrible night. In the aftermath of another skirmish, driven by his torment, Guts confronted and killed Donovan, unable to fathom Gambino's betrayal. Gambino's anger was further fueled by losing his leg in battle. This marked a turning point in his relationship with Guts, as verbal abuse escalated into physical abuse. Blaming Guts for his misfortune, Gambino attempted to end the young boy's life. During this confrontation, Gambino heartlessly admitted to selling Guts to Donovan that night, shattering their last remaining trust. Overwhelmed by heartbreak and sorrow, Guts had to confront the man who once acted as a father figure. In a fateful confrontation, he had to face and ultimately kill the closest thing he had to a father, as Gambino's darkness consumed their bond.
Guts has been through numerous traumatic events that would typically change the average person to be destructive or have a sense of giving up. As any Stoic knows, the best way to get rid of your demons is by confronting them. Guts has shown in the series that he faces both external and internal demons. One example of an external demon is when he had to confront 100 men and slay all of them to protect himself and Casca, who at this point is only a comrade. He later became known as the 100 Manslayer. The commander of the Blue Whale Knights and his men find Guts and Casca. Even though they are outnumbered, Guts keeps urging Casca to run while he holds off the 100 men. Some of the knights pursue Casca, but the rest stay back and try to defeat Guts. It's shown that Guts is willing to protect those he cares about, and not let his emotions be the reason to stop him. There was a sense of doubt in him, making him feel like he couldn't do it. But your demons won't care about your feelings. You must keep fighting regardless of the current situation. It's better to try even though you might fail. I'm not saying to ignore your emotions. No matter how you go on in this life, you will always have feelings to endure. It can be sadness, joy, or even anger as long as you control yourself. Take a deep breath and remember that there are consequences for the actions you take. As previously mentioned, just like Guts had to suffer from external demons, the worst traumas are the ones within. One of the primary examples is the Eclipse. During the Eclipse, he had to deal with extreme betrayal and excruciating pain. Griffith, the Band of the Hawk's leader, sacrificed his entire army just to become the new God Hand member known as Femto. Guts and Casca were the only ones that were spared. The rest of the army was devoured by apostles. Apostles are beings that made a pact with the God Hand to grant them demonic power in exchange for sacrificing their humanity and offering sacrifices. As Guts and Casca both witnessed the horrifying sight of their comrades dying, it was only the beginning of the horror they were going to experience. Guts attacked until there was a moment when he saw Casca tied up and about to be impaled. Before that could happen, Guts started running towards Casca to save her. Then a giant apostle launched toward him and bit down on his left arm. Guts was about to witness Casca being impaled, and all he could do was watch. He had no way of getting to her, but before anything happened, everyone stopped. Femto had appeared.
Our newest kinsman, our wing of darkness. Arise, Femto.
Guts, in utter shock from what his best friend had become, was about to feel the ultimate betrayal. Femto decides to get Casca and starts violating her in front of Guts. He immediately tries to stop him, but couldn't since he was being held in place. He repeatedly tried to kill the apostle that was biting him. but he had no progress. After a couple of attacks, the sword ends up snapping in half. With no other option, all Guts could do was cut off part of his arm to stop Griffith from defiling Casca. As he starts running towards Griffith with a broken sword and a missing arm, he gets pinned down by another apostle, who impales his right eye with a claw. As he continues to witness the horrible things Femto is doing to Casca, during the traumatic experience, the Skull Knight saved both Casca and Guts. After the eclipse, they were never the same again. Casca turned into a childlike state, and also lost the ability to talk. So Guts made it his goal to bring Casca back to her usual self. Even though Guts suffered through that experience, he still uses that pain, anger, and regret to pursue his goal. He is determined to achieve it and save those he cares for. He will endure pain and fight to get one step closer to his aspiration. Even though a tiny step might have little effect on your goals, always remember that progress is progress, no matter how small. Never give up on yourself and keep a good momentum with your goals. Guts could have given up on himself throughout the series, but he has set a goal. He will ensure he gets the outcome he wants regardless of what or who steps in his way. Once you have started with that mindset, you will obtain your target. You might disagree with what he says. Andrew Tate has made incredible points about working for your goals and having self-control, especially about being disciplined with what you want to achieve.
You cannot quit, you cannot give up, you need that momentum to break free. When a rocket is flying out towards the moon to escape the atmosphere, it doesn't fucking pause halfway up the sky, does it? No, it keeps going. You are finally in the right place at the right time. You are the only person who can make this work, and you're also the only person who can fuck this up.
Today, many people are dealing with problems and looking for excuses to avoid them. They go to great lengths to avoid short-term pain, causing more long-term issues. There's nothing wrong with taking a break to analyze the situation, but don't avoid the problem. Most of the time, problems seem worse in our heads than in reality. Famous Stoic Seneca once said, "We suffer more in our imagination than in reality."
Though Guts had to face his demons, he also had to learn how to accept and to let go. It is impossible to grow if you dwell on the past. A Stoic has to learn to accept that there are many things in life out of their control, so there is no reason to dwell on it. It is that simple. Your mind will be more at peace and your goals will be much more clear if you just learn to accept and to let go. You cannot finish a book by rereading previous chapters. You must keep reading the next chapter to finish the story. A great example is when Guts forms a deep bond with Griffith and becomes an important member of the Band of the Hawk. Griffith had a goal to have his own kingdom, but for him to obtain this goal, he needed to use Guts. A month after the Battle of Doldrey, Guts decided to leave. Guts, wanting to have his own goal, decided to find his own path. When setting out, Guts encounters Judo and Corcus. They decided to take Guts to a nearby tavern to reason with him. That is when Guts revealed that he wants to follow his own dream instead of being just Griffith's shadow. After being reprimanded by Judo and Corcus, Guts decides to leave and starts walking towards the outer wall of the city. That's where he is confronted by Griffith and other members of the Band of the Hawk, including Casca. Griffith challenges Guts to a duel to win his freedom. As they both draw their swords, they launch at each other. Griffith's sword is cut in two, leaving him kneeling in defeat. This pivotal moment marks the beginning of Guts' personal growth as he builds his identity beyond just being a tool for Griffith. Guts also had to endure the pain of learning to accept the situation regardless of whether or not it went in his favor. Guts cares deeply for Casca, but during their journey, she suffers from a traumatic experience that leaves her mentally unstable. Despite his desire to heal her and restore their relationship, Guts realizes he cannot control nor change her mental state. He accepts the situation for what it is. He focuses on protecting her and providing support while continuing his quest to bring Casca back to normal. Most people would leave if they felt powerless, as they think they have no control over the situation. Unlike Guts, he has a goal. He will ensure that he reaches that goal, regardless of any circumstances. We all know that this one's a no-brainer. The amount of willpower Guts has in this series is extraordinary. From the day he was born to where he's currently at, he still has the strength to keep moving forward. Many examples proves Guts' willpower, such as enduring the horrific moments of the eclipse and reclaiming the Berserk armor. The Berserk armor was forged by the dwarf known as Hanar. Hanar put an OD, which is magic in all life forces, but the OD is ominous, that is driven by violent tendencies that can make the person wearing it not feel pain nor fear. But with that unique power, it has a highly terrifying drawback. If the person wearing it, in this case Guts, does not check on their negative emotions, then the OD can take over his soul, which can make him become a feral and bloodthirsty monster, causing him not to be able to acknowledge the difference between a friend and an enemy. It also causes chronic mental deterioration, so the only way Guts can use the armor effectively is by reinforcing his mind and spirit. Regardless of everything Guts has been through, he still has the willpower to save Casca and to be free. He has the will to conquer demons, apostles, and more. Without willpower, people would never reach their goals. The result may not be visible at that moment, so most tend to give up. The true Stoics are the ones that are not afraid to keep going. And this life is all mind over matter. From the beginning, Guts had a difficult journey, filled with tragedies and despair. A life destined for hardship, yet through all the suffering, Guts showed a profound resilience that would define him. With each new day, he endures the pain inflicted upon him, pushing his physical and mental limits to the brink. But even when most would have fallen to madness or given into despair, Guts still